Nathan Carter had never seen a world like Zephyria. The sky was a deep, swirling mix of blue and violet, dotted with floating islands that glimmered like precious stones. Strange plants with translucent leaves grew in clusters, and rivers of luminous liquid flowed between them. The air had a sharp, clean scent, almost electric, and every sound carried with a resonance that made him feel alert and alive. As a human soldier, Nathan had traveled to distant worlds before, but Zephyria was unlike anything he had imagined. It was a place that belonged to royalty, power, and traditions that humans had no part in. Yet here he was, representing his species. He adjusted the straps of his heavy combat armor. Every piece had been polished and reinforced, designed not just for protection, but to demonstrate humanity's discipline and engineering. On Earth, soldiers like Nathan were trained to move quickly, think independently, and fight strategically. On Zephyria, he suspected, strength and status were measured differently. He had been briefed extensively about the Zephyrian court, but briefings only went so far. Reality was always more complicated. The Grand Palace loomed ahead, a towering structure built into one of the floating islands. Its spires twisted upward, catching the light in colors Nathan had no names for. The entrance hall was wide enough to hold thousands, and yet it felt almost intimate, as if every whisper could echo across the polished floors. He could see alien attendants moving gracefully, their elongated limbs and shimmering skin giving them an elegance he could not replicate. He felt ordinary. That feeling, however, would not matter. Nathan reminded himself that appearances were not everything. Humanity's strength lay not in beauty or tradition, but in action, courage, and adaptability. He had seen humans face death and hardship without flinching. If Zephyrians judged him for his size or armor, that was their problem. The court session began in a hall filled with floating platforms, each holding members of the royal family and their advisors. Nathan walked to the center of the room, every step measured, his armor clanking lightly with each movement. Eyes turned toward him. Some observed with curiosity, others with suspicion, but the most significant gaze was that of Princess Leora. Leora stood on a raised platform, her posture perfect, her expression a mixture of amusement and arrogance. At 19, she was already one of the youngest leaders in Zephyria's history to wield such influence. Her hair shimmered like liquid gold, flowing down her back in waves that seemed almost alive. Her eyes, a striking violet, glimmered with intelligence and mischief. Nathan had been warned about her sharp tongue and her tendency to mock visitors she deemed beneath her. He had prepared himself mentally, but seeing her in person brought a new level of tension. "Ah," Leora said, her voice melodic but sharp, carrying easily across the hall. "A human soldier in full armor, how predictable." Her words were light, almost teasing, but the court chuckled, sensing the amusement in her tone. Nathan noticed how her eyes scanned him as if trying to measure his worth. It was not just curiosity. There was challenge in that gaze. Nathan stood still, letting the laughter wash over him without flinching. He had faced ridicule before. This was nothing new. Yet something about the way Leora spoke, the casual dismissal of his presence, sparked a determination in him he did not often feel. He had been sent here to prove humanity's value, and he would do so, but not on terms dictated by mockery. "You must be very proud of that armor," Leora continued, stepping down slightly from her platform, bringing herself closer to eye level with him despite the height difference. "So heavy, so clumsy. I wonder how you can move at all, let alone think with all that metal weighing you down." The court erupted in polite laughter again. Nathan looked around. The Zephyrians were elegant and controlled in their movements, but he noticed a flaw they rarely admitted: confidence without action. They measured worth through tradition and appearance. Humans measured it through results and courage. Without a word, Nathan reached behind him and began loosening the straps of his armor. The murmurs in the hall grew louder as spectators realized what he was doing. The heavy plates clanged and slid one by one, until the armor lay in pieces at his feet. He stood tall, wearing only the undersuit beneath, his posture calm, his gaze steady. The hall went silent. Leora blinked once, then twice, her smile fading as she tried to process what had just happened. The human had not reacted with anger. He had not shouted or challenged her verbally. Instead, he had removed the very thing she mocked him for, and in doing so he had shown a different kind of strength: confidence, presence, calm resolve. Nathan's quiet defiance spoke louder than any weapon could. He did not need to prove himself in words or display. He simply existed with dignity, unshaken by the mockery. Leora, unused to such a reaction, found herself intrigued. She had met humans before, but none had dared to challenge her expectations so directly, without disrespect, without drama. "Interesting," she said softly, her voice now carrying curiosity instead of mockery. She stepped closer, studying him carefully. "You are different from what I expected." Nathan's gaze met hers steadily. "I do not need armor to prove my worth," he said simply. His words were calm, almost casual, yet they carried weight. The court members shifted uncomfortably. They had not seen a human act this way before. Leora's eyebrows arched. "Bold words for a human," she replied. But the teasing edge was gone. It was replaced by something new, respect or at least consideration. "Tell me, soldier, are all humans so confident without their armor?" Nathan paused, choosing his words carefully. "Confidence is not in what we wear. It is in what we do when everything is stripped away." The room remained silent for a moment longer, then a ripple of whispers spread. The princess's advisors exchanged glances. They had never seen this level of composure in a visitor, especially one so young and so seemingly powerless without protection. Nathan's actions had spoken more loudly than 100 speeches. Leora tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "Perhaps I have underestimated your kind," she admitted. It was a quiet confession, almost lost in the grandeur of the hall, yet Nathan heard it. The acknowledgement itself was a victory, not of arrogance but of principle. The court session continued, but the tone had shifted. Nathan moved with quiet dignity, answering questions and demonstrating human problem-solving skills in ways that surprised even the most skeptical Zephyrians. While his armor had once symbolized protection and strength, it had also created a barrier between him and the court. Now without it, he connected with them on a different level. As the day progressed, Nathan began to observe Zephyria in more detail. The people, though elegant and capable, were constrained by tradition. They excelled in ceremony, artistry, and controlled combat, but when improvisation was needed, many faltered. Humans, Nathan realized, had an advantage in adaptability, thinking quickly under pressure and finding solutions where none seemed possible. Princess Leora remained close by, her interest in him growing. She asked questions, some playful, some probing, testing his reactions. Nathan answered honestly, calmly, never letting her see fear or uncertainty. She began to realize that her initial judgment had been shallow. This human soldier was more than armor, more than muscle. He was clever, calm under pressure, and surprisingly insightful. By the time the court session ended, whispers about the human soldier had spread throughout the palace. Some called him audacious, others foolish, but all had noticed his quiet strength. Leora, for her part, remained thoughtful. She had mocked him expecting humiliation, but instead, he had demonstrated something she had rarely seen: integrity, courage, and calm self-confidence. As Nathan prepared to leave the hall, Leora followed. She walked beside him, her eyes still observing, no longer mocking. "Tomorrow," she said softly, almost to herself, "we will see if your actions speak as loudly as your words." Nathan nodded once, acknowledging her challenge without fear. He did not know what awaited him, but he knew one thing. Humans had always been underestimated, and he intended to prove that worth was more than appearance, more than armor. The floating city of Zephyria sparkled as the evening sun cast golden light across the landscape. Nathan walked away from the hall, leaving his armor behind, feeling lighter and more aware than ever. The princess had challenged him with her words, but he had responded with calm dignity. That quiet victory, he knew, was only the beginning. He looked up at the floating islands above, feeling the weight of expectation, but also the thrill of opportunity. Humanity's place in the stars was uncertain, yet moments like this, moments of courage and calm, were what could change perceptions, one person at a time. And if one human could make a princess reconsider everything she thought she knew about other species, then perhaps the universe was ready to take notice. As night fell over Zephyria, Nathan found himself standing on the edge of a terrace, gazing at the glowing rivers and sparkling plants below. He felt an unfamiliar mix of tension and excitement. The princess's challenge lingered in his mind, but unlike before, it did not intimidate him. It motivated him. Tomorrow he would prove that humans were more than their armor. He would prove that courage, ingenuity, and calm resolve could command respect even in the face of mockery. and in doing so, perhaps he would. The next morning, the sun of Zephyria rose in a cascade of violet and gold, painting the floating islands in warm light. Nathan Carter woke early, not because of duty, but because he had something important to prove. Yesterday, he had made a small statement by removing his armor and standing calmly before the princess and her court. Today, the challenge would be greater. Princess Leora had not spoken her full mind, and Nathan could feel that her curiosity and scrutiny were sharper than before. He walked through the palace corridors, observing the alien architecture with quiet fascination. The hallways twisted like ribbons, filled with floating lights and delicate carvings that seemed to shift subtly as one passed. The floors were smooth, but the air hummed with energy, making him feel both alert and slightly off balance. He was a stranger in this world, but he did not shrink. Humans had faced the unknown before, and he relied on his instincts, his discipline, and his ability to adapt. Nathan reached the main arena, a vast structure suspended between two floating islands. It was circular, with platforms of polished metal rising like terraces from the ground, and a central area open and gleaming. The Zephyrians had designed the arena for combat, performance, and demonstration. It was beautiful, but it was also a test. Nathan could sense that today, Princess Leora intended to see what humans were capable of without the armor and technology he often relied upon. The princess arrived shortly after, accompanied by her advisors. Her hair glimmered in the morning sun, and her violet eyes sparkled with a mix of amusement and challenge. She wore the ceremonial attire of her station, elegant yet practical for movement, and walked to the center of the arena with grace. Nathan noticed that even her guards kept a respectful distance, watching her every move as though she were untouchable. Yet Nathan did not feel intimidated. He had faced intimidating foes before. What mattered was clarity of mind and courage of heart. "Today, human," Leora said, her voice clear across the arena, "you will demonstrate what your species can do without the armor you rely upon. You will face challenges designed for Zephyrian warriors, who are skilled in agility, strategy, and endurance. Let us see if humans can match us in skill." Nathan nodded, his expression calm. "I will do my best. That is all anyone can ask," Leora gestured, and the first challenge began. Platforms rose from the floor, each with a different test. The first was a climbing wall, jagged and irregular with grips that required precision and strength. Nathan approached it carefully, his fingers searching for holds, his feet finding balance. The Zephyrians watched, their expressions skeptical. They had expected the human to struggle, but Nathan moved deliberately, using his knowledge of leverage, weight, and balance. He reached the top without hesitation, his movements smooth and efficient. A few Zephyrians nodded subtly, while Leora's eyes widened just slightly. She had not expected such skill from a human. The next challenge was agility. A series of floating platforms shifted and rotated in mid-air. The objective was to cross without falling. Nathan observed the pattern for a moment, analyzing the timing and rhythm. Then he moved, leaping from platform to platform with precise calculation. Each jump was controlled, each landing balanced. Some Zephyrians stumbled or overcompensated, but Nathan's experience and training gave him an advantage. As he reached the end, a murmur ran through the spectators. Leora's expression softened, not in amusement but in consideration. She had expected to see a human overwhelmed, but instead he demonstrated skill, focus, and calm determination. The final test was endurance. A time challenge required Nathan to lift heavy weights, maneuver obstacles, and navigate a maze while keeping his focus sharp. The weights were strange to him, made of Zephyrian materials that felt lighter than they looked, yet unbalanced in ways he did not expect. Nathan adapted quickly, adjusting his movements with logic and experience. He moved through the maze methodically, solving puzzles that blocked his path and maintained his composure under pressure. When he finished, Leora stepped forward, clapping lightly. "You are unlike any human I have met," she admitted, her tone sincere. "Your mind and body work in ways that are unexpected. I underestimated you yesterday, and for that I owe you acknowledgement." Nathan inclined his head slightly, accepting her words without arrogance. "Respect is earned, Princess, not given because of title or expectation." The princess studied him, clearly impressed by his response. "Perhaps you teach us more than I expected," she said. After the challenges, Nathan was invited to explore parts of the floating city with the princess as a guide. She led him through narrow pathways lined with glowing flora, over bridges that swayed gently, and into chambers filled with Zephyrian art and technology. Nathan marveled at the complexity of the city, the ingenuity of the architecture, and the elegance of its people. Yet he also noticed rigidity. Their methods were beautiful but too reliant on tradition. Humans, Nathan reflected, had creativity and adaptability in abundance. They reached a garden suspended high above the central city. The view was breathtaking. Rivers of glowing liquid snaked between islands, floating lights danced in the air, and in the distance, other humans and Zephyrians moved among the buildings. Nathan felt a quiet pride. He was far from Earth in an alien world, yet he had proven his worth not through technology or weapons, but through courage, focus, and determination. Tell me, Leora asked suddenly, on your world, do humans often face challenges like these?
Do you train for combat your whole life?
Nathan shook his head. Not everyone trains for combat, Princess. But we train for life. We learn to think, adapt, and endure. Combat is just one measure of ability. Intelligence, creativity, and perseverance matter just as much, if not more. Leora listened intently, her expression thoughtful.
Humans are
different from what I expected. I thought you relied only on technology and brute strength, but you rely on your mind, on observation, on thinking quickly under pressure. Yes, Nathan said simply. We rely on what we can control. Not everything is predictable and not everything is given, but we adapt and find solutions. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm. A loud resonant sound echoed through the floating city. Nathan instinctively moved toward the source with Leora close behind him. From a distance they saw movement. Rogue Zephyrian mercenaries, armed and aggressive, approaching an outpost that supplied the city with energy and resources. The guards reacted slowly, unsure how to respond, but Nathan did not hesitate. He assessed the situation quickly. The mercenaries had the advantage in numbers and speed, but their coordination was poor. Nathan directed human soldiers stationed in the city, organizing them into strategic positions. He coordinated with Leora's guards, showing them how to maximize their abilities. His calm and decisive instructions brought order where confusion had taken hold. The battle began, a clash of strategy, skill, and courage. Nathan moved with precision, anticipating enemy movements and adjusting tactics in real time. He noticed Zephyrians relying on brute strength, often overextending themselves, and he used that against them. Slowly his team gained ground. Leora watched, astonished by Nathan's ability to lead and command under pressure. She had never seen a human fight without relying solely on armor or weapons. Yet he managed the battlefield with intelligence, courage, and creativity. The mercenaries, expecting an easy victory, were forced to retreat. The outpost was saved. After the battle, Leora approached Nathan. She was still catching her breath, her violet eyes wide with admiration. You were incredible, she said. I thought you would struggle, but you turned the fight around. You protected us when we were unprepared. How did you do that? Nathan shrugged slightly, his calm demeanor unchanged. I observed, adapted, and acted. That is all humans can do. We cannot rely on luck. We must rely on ourselves and those we lead. The princess studied him quietly. You are unlike any warrior I have seen. Not only did you defeat them, but you inspired those around you to act. You taught them courage by example. Nathan's eyes met hers. Everyone has courage, Princess. Sometimes they just need someone to show it in action. From that day on, whispers about the human soldier spread throughout Zephyria. Humans were no longer just curiosities, they were capable, intelligent, and brave. Nathan's actions had changed perceptions not through arrogance or violence, but through calm leadership, adaptability, and selfless action. As the day ended, Nathan and Leora walked back through the floating city. The streets were quieter now, the tension of the attack dissipating. The princess's expression was thoughtful, her earlier amusement replaced by consideration and curiosity. She had mocked Nathan before, but now she saw him as a symbol of what humans could achieve: discipline, intelligence, and courage in the face of unknown challenges. Tomorrow, Leora said softly, we will continue your trials. But now I'm curious, not just about your skill, but about your mind. Let us see how humans think when the challenge is not physical, but mental. Nathan nodded. He was ready. The challenges of Zephyria were far from over, but he had learned something important. Respect is earned through action, courage, and integrity, not by words or appearances. And if one human could change the perspective of a young princess and her court, then perhaps humanity's place among the stars was closer than anyone had imagined. The morning sun broke across Zephyria with a soft glow, casting long shadows over the floating city and its shimmering rivers. Nathan Carter woke with a quiet sense of purpose. Yesterday had tested him physically and mentally, and he had earned a measure of respect from Princess Leora and the Zephyrian court. Yet he knew the challenges were far from over. In this world, appearances were not enough. Perception could change in a moment, and he had to remain vigilant. He moved through the corridors of the palace with careful steps. The hallways twisted and curved, walls alive with subtle motion as if the building itself breathed. Light reflected off surfaces in unpredictable patterns, and Nathan found himself needing to focus even on simple movement. Yet he felt calm. His human training had prepared him for chaos, for uncertainty, and for the unknown. Here, every step was a chance to learn, to adapt, and to show strength beyond mere physicality. Princess Leora awaited him in the main atrium. Her violet eyes sparkled with curiosity, though there was a new depth to them, respect tempered with still hidden challenge. Her golden hair cascaded around her shoulders, shimmering in the soft morning light, and her expression was unreadable, a mix of amusement and serious calculation. Nathan could sense that she had something important in mind. "Today," she said, "we leave the arena and enter the city itself. You will face challenges not just of strength or skill, but of judgment, empathy, and decision-making. Your mind and heart will be tested." Nathan inclined his head. "I am ready." The first test took them to one of Zephyria's floating neighborhoods, a maze of platforms, gardens, and bridges, suspended high above the glowing rivers below. The people of Zephyria moved gracefully, their elongated limbs carrying them effortlessly over gaps and edges. Nathan observed carefully. These were not warriors in training. They were ordinary citizens going about their daily lives. Yet in Zephyria, ordinary life could be perilous. One misstep or wrong decision could have serious consequences. A sudden cry broke the calm. Nathan and Leora rushed forward, finding a young Zephyrian girl trapped on a narrow bridge that swayed precariously above the glowing river. Her limbs were thin and she could not regain her balance. The crowd around her froze, unsure what to do. Without hesitation, Nathan stepped forward. He reached the girl with careful, controlled movements, assessing the weight of the bridge, the wind, and the best approach. He extended a hand with a calm confidence that seemed to anchor the girl's fear. "Take my hand," he said. "I will guide you." Leora watched in silent fascination. Humans, she realized, often relied on instinct and intuition in ways Zephyrians did not. Nathan's movements were deliberate but flexible. He adapted to the bridge's sway and the girl's panic, guiding her safely to solid ground. The crowd murmured in admiration, and the girl clung to Nathan, smiling with relief. "You saved her," Leora said quietly, stepping beside him. "A human's courage is different from ours. It is not only physical but moral. You act without hesitation to protect even when there is risk." Nathan shrugged slightly. "Courage is not just for the battlefield. It is for life. Every choice can matter." Their next challenge brought them to the market district, where tension was already high. A dispute had broken out between merchants over resources essential to the city. Voices rose and a small crowd gathered, threatening to escalate the situation. Nathan moved calmly into the center of the conflict, observing each side with careful attention. Zephyrians often relied on authority or strength to resolve disputes. Nathan, however, relied on listening and reasoning. He asked questions, identified the source of misunderstanding, and proposed compromises that addressed both sides' needs. Slowly, the anger in the crowd subsided, replaced by cautious respect for his fairness. Leora followed closely, noting his methods. "You have no official authority here," she remarked, "and yet they obey your guidance." "How?" Nathan smiled faintly. "Respect is earned, Princess. People respond to honesty and reason more than they respond to power alone." As they moved deeper into the city, a sudden disturbance drew their attention. A group of rogue mercenaries, different from yesterday's attackers, had infiltrated a residential area. They were aggressive, threatening the citizens and causing panic. Nathan instinctively took charge, directing humans and Zephyrian guards alike. He organized a defensive line, assigning positions that utilized everyone's skills effectively. The fight was intense, but Nathan's calm assessment and rapid decision-making turned the situation. He noticed patterns in the mercenaries' movements and exploited weaknesses in their coordination. Leora observed from a high platform, impressed by his ability to lead under pressure. She had mocked humans before, but she was beginning to understand that human courage, intelligence, and adaptability were qualities the Zephyrians rarely valued enough. After the mercenaries retreated, the city's residents gathered, whispering among themselves about the human soldier, who had saved them not through brute force alone, but through insight, planning, and leadership. Nathan, tired but steady, turned to Leora. "They are resilient," he said. "You have strong people here. With guidance and trust, they can do even more than they believe." Leora's expression softened, a subtle smile forming. "You see potential where we often see only limitations. It is rare. Zephyrians are not accustomed to someone recognizing both skill and heart together." Nathan nodded. "Every people have strengths. Recognizing them is the first step to success." The day continued with challenges that tested Nathan's perception and judgment. He navigated complex social dynamics among Zephyrian citizens, resolved misunderstandings between traders and artisans, and found solutions to logistical problems that the city had faced for decades. Each success drew Leora's attention. She began to see him not as an outsider, but as a partner capable of bridging gaps between humans and Zephyrians. At one point, they reached a high terrace overlooking the city. Leora turned to Nathan, her violet eyes thoughtful. "Yesterday I mocked you. I expected you to be weak without your armor. Today I see strength I did not anticipate. You inspire those around you by example, not by title or appearance. How do you maintain such calm under pressure?" Nathan considered her question carefully. "Humans are trained to adapt. We learn to focus on what we can control, not on what we fear. Panic accomplishes nothing. Preparation and observation matter more than strength alone." Leora nodded slowly. "You are extraordinary, Nathan. Perhaps more extraordinary than even you realize." As the sun began to set, Nathan and Leora walked along the floating pathways, watching the city glow beneath them. The lights reflected off the rivers and plants, casting a soft luminescence that made the entire scene magical. Nathan felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. He had faced physical, mental, and moral challenges and had succeeded without arrogance or complaint. He had earned the respect of Princess Leora and the people of Zephyria, yet he knew the journey was far from over. Challenges awaited him that would test not only his skills, but his ability to influence, inspire, and protect in ways even more complex than before. He had learned that in Zephyria, strength alone was not enough. Wisdom, courage, and moral integrity mattered equally. Leora's presence beside him was a constant reminder of the scrutiny he faced, but also of the potential for mutual understanding. She had started the day as a skeptical observer, but by evening, she had become an ally in observation, studying his methods, learning from his perspective, and slowly appreciating the qualities that made humans different from Zephyrians. "Tomorrow," Leora said softly as they reached the edge of the terrace, "we will test your abilities in a new way. Not only will you face challenges, but you will also make choices that affect others. Let us see if a human can lead not just by skill, but by wisdom and empathy." Nathan nodded, understanding that the tests would become increasingly complex. "I am ready." Every challenge is an opportunity to show what humans can do. As night fell over Zephyria, the floating city glimmered like a constellation in the sky. Nathan stood quietly, reflecting on the day's events. He had proven courage, intelligence, and adaptability. He had saved lives, resolved conflicts, and earned the respect of a princess who had once mocked him. Yet he knew that this was only the beginning of his journey. The true test would come when human skill, wisdom, and empathy were measured not against obstacles alone, but against the hearts and minds of those around him. The princess remained silent beside him, but Nathan could sense her growing respect and curiosity. She had begun to see the world differently, guided by his calm example and steady leadership. In the days to come, they would face more trials, each one an opportunity to prove that humans could not only survive in Zephyria, but also inspire, lead, and forge connections that transcended species. Nathan's mind was calm, his focus unwavering. The city below was alive, full of energy, potential, and untapped strength. And in the quiet of the evening, Nathan felt a deep sense of purpose. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, but through courage, intelligence, and integrity, they could change perceptions and perhaps even reshape the future of worlds like Zephyria. As he prepared to rest for the night, Nathan realized that his mission had evolved. It was no longer simply about proving human strength or skill. The next morning, Zephyria glimmered under a pale violet sun. Nathan Carter rose early as he always did, feeling the quiet weight of the challenges ahead. Yesterday, he had shown Princess Leora and the citizens of Zephyria the strength of human courage, intelligence, and moral resolve. Today, he sensed the test would go beyond skill and strategy. Today, his actions would directly affect the people around him in ways that would measure more than his mind or body. They would measure his heart. He dressed simply in the standard undersuit, leaving behind his armor. Yesterday had proven that armor did not define him, and Nathan understood now that his purpose on Zephyria was to inspire respect through action, integrity, and calm leadership. The princess met him in the palace courtyard. Her violet eyes, once sharp with mockery, now held curiosity and something deeper, a developing respect and cautious admiration. Her golden hair shimmered in the morning light, reflecting the colors of the floating city. She gestured for Nathan to follow as she led him to the city's central district, where today's challenge awaited. Today, she said, you will face a trial that tests not your physical strength but your wisdom and judgment. You will act as a leader, protector, and mediator. How you respond will reveal whether humans can truly guide others, not through authority but through insight and courage. Nathan nodded. I understand. I am ready. Their first stop was a residential area near the edge of one of the city's floating islands. The neighborhood was bustling with Zephyrian families beginning their daily routines. Children played on floating platforms, merchants arranged their glowing wares, and citizens moved gracefully from one terrace to another. Nathan observed the environment carefully, noting the flow of people, the potential hazards, and the challenges he might face. A commotion drew their attention. A young Zephyrian boy had wandered too close to the edge of a platform and was trapped on a narrow ledge, unable to climb back to safety. The crowd around him froze, unsure how to act. Nathan moved immediately, his steps measured and precise. He reached the boy and extended a calm hand. Hold on to me. We will get you to safety. The boy hesitated, fear evident in his eyes, but Nathan's steady voice reassured him. Using careful balance and controlled movements, Nathan guided the boy to solid ground. The crowd erupted in quiet applause, whispering among themselves about the human who saved the child without hesitation or show of power. Princess Leora's expression softened. You act without fear and you act for others, she observed. Your courage is not for glory but for protection. That is rare among both humans and Zephyrians. Nathan shrugged lightly. Every life has value, Princess. Courage is only meaningful when it protects those who cannot protect themselves. Before Leora could respond, a new problem emerged. A fire had broken out in a nearby market stall, spreading rapidly to adjacent structures. Panic surged among the citizens, many of whom were unsure how to respond. Nathan acted quickly, directing people to form lines, moving flammable goods away, and identifying weak points in the structures that could collapse. He instructed citizens to use water from nearby canals, and he worked with Zephyrian guards to create a safe perimeter. His leadership was calm, precise, and efficient. By coordinating humans and Zephyrians, the fire was contained before it could spread further. The princess watched closely, clearly impressed. You lead not through authority, but through action and clear judgment. The citizens follow because they trust your decisions, not because they fear you. Nathan nodded. Trust is earned through consistency, honesty, and results. People respond when they see competence paired with care. After the fire was extinguished, Leora led Nathan to a high terrace overlooking the city. The floating lights reflected in the rivers below, casting soft, ethereal glows across the structures. She turned to Nathan, her expression serious yet thoughtful. You have already shown skill, courage, and wisdom, but now we test your ability to inspire long-term change. Leadership is not only about solving problems as they arise, but about shaping the future. How would you guide this city if given the chance? Nathan considered her question carefully. I would start by listening, he said. Understanding the people, their needs, their strengths, and their fears. Then I would create systems that allow them to thrive without fear, to trust in each other and themselves. Leadership is not about control. It is about enabling others to act wisely and courageously. Leora studied him silently, her violet eyes scanning his expression. She had expected arrogance or boastful claims, but Nathan spoke with quiet confidence and humility. It was a balance she had rarely seen, and it intrigued her. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert from the city's security network. A group of mercenaries, remnants from yesterday's attack, had regrouped and were attempting to infiltrate a critical energy hub. Unlike the previous encounters, this threat was more strategic, requiring careful planning and coordination. Nathan quickly assessed the situation. The hub supplied power to a large portion of the city, and its loss could cause widespread disruption. He organized human soldiers and Zephyrian guards into a coordinated defense, assigning roles that utilized each individual's strengths. His mind worked swiftly, anticipating enemy movements, and he adjusted tactics in real time. The battle was tense. Mercenaries tried to breach the defenses, but Nathan's leadership and strategy turned the tide. He used environmental advantages, guiding defenders to optimal positions and exploiting the attackers' weaknesses. Gradually, the mercenaries were forced to retreat, unable to overcome the combined efforts of humans and Zephyrians working under Nathan's calm guidance. Once the threat was neutralized, Leora approached Nathan. Her expression was a mixture of awe and respect. "You have done more than protect the city. You have taught its people courage, strategy, and teamwork. Your influence goes beyond action, it inspires." Nathan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Inspiration comes from example, not command. People learn best when they see others act with integrity and purpose. As the day progressed, Nathan faced further challenges that tested his empathy, judgment, and leadership. He mediated disputes among citizens, identified inefficiencies in city logistics, and helped create solutions for resource distribution. Each success reinforced the growing trust and respect between him and the Zephyrian population. Leora remained close, observing quietly, occasionally offering insights and questions. Nathan began to notice a subtle change in her demeanor. The sharp, mocking edge of her personality had softened, replaced by curiosity and admiration. She asked thoughtful questions, considered his advice, and engaged in dialogue that revealed her intelligence and willingness to learn. During a quiet moment in the afternoon, they walked along a suspended bridge overlooking the city. The rivers below glowed softly, and the floating platforms moved gently in the wind. Leora spoke softly. "Nathan, yesterday I mocked you because I expected weakness. Today, I see strength I did not anticipate. You have shown courage, wisdom, and care for others. How do humans develop these qualities?" Nathan smiled faintly. "We face challenges, Princess. Some are small, some are life-threatening. We learn through experience, observation, and by relying on each other. Courage and wisdom grow from necessity, and from the choices we make when others depend on us." Leora nodded slowly. "I see now that strength is not only measured by power or skill. It is also measured by heart, by the ability to guide and protect, and by the choices one makes under pressure. You have shown this in ways I did not expect." As the sun began to set, Nathan and Leora returned to the palace. The floating city glimmered beneath them, its lights reflecting in the rivers and on the surfaces of the platforms. Citizens whispered about the human soldier who had faced danger, protected the vulnerable, and inspired courage through action rather than words. Nathan felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. He had not only proven human capability, but had also begun to earn the respect and trust of a young princess who had once mocked him. Yet he knew that this was not the end of his trials. The challenges ahead would test his integrity, judgment, and leadership in even more complex ways. That evening, Nathan reflected on the day's events. He had navigated emergencies, led diverse groups, and inspired trust through example. He had proven that humans could act with courage, intelligence, and empathy, even in an alien world. The princess, once skeptical and mocking, had begun to see him as a model of what humanity could offer. Leora approached him quietly, her expression thoughtful. "Tomorrow will bring a different challenge," she said softly. "It will test your ability to adapt to situations where lives and decisions are intertwined, where one choice can affect many. Are you ready?" Nathan nodded. "I'm ready. Each day brings its own challenge, and humans adapt. We learn, observe, and act. That is how we thrive." The princess studied him silently for a moment, then smiled faintly. It was a small gesture, but it carried weight. She had begun to trust him, to recognize his capability, and perhaps even to learn from him. Nathan understood that trust and respect were fragile, earned through consistent action and integrity, and he was determined to uphold them. As night fell over Zephyria, the city shimmered like a sea of stars floating. The morning sun of Zephyria rose with a soft golden hue, illuminating the floating city and the glowing rivers below. Nathan Carter awoke with a sense of purpose that felt heavier than ever before. The trials of the past days had tested him physically, mentally, and morally, and he had gained the respect of Princess Leora and the citizens of Zephyria. Yet he sensed that the final test would challenge him in ways he had not yet faced, an ultimate measure of his courage, wisdom, and influence. He dressed in his usual undersuit, leaving armor behind, for he had learned that protection came not only from materials, but from observation, preparation, and calm determination. Today, Nathan understood the outcome would not depend solely on strength or skill. It would depend on his ability to lead, inspire, and act with integrity under extreme pressure. Princess Leora awaited him in the palace courtyard, her violet eyes reflecting both anticipation and curiosity. The mocking edge that had been present when they first met was gone, replaced with a quiet seriousness. Nathan noticed the subtle tension in her posture. She knew the stakes were higher today. "We have come to the final stage of your trial," she said. "It is not a test of your speed, strength, or agility. It is a test of judgment, courage, and moral clarity. You will face challenges where your choices affect the lives of others. Every decision will have consequences. Are you prepared?" Nathan nodded calmly. "I am ready. I understand the responsibility, Princess." Leora led him to a high terrace overlooking one of Zephyria's largest districts. The area was normally serene with flowing rivers and floating gardens, but today it was filled with tension. Citizens moved cautiously, whispering among themselves, for rumors had spread that a powerful threat would test the city's safety. Nathan scanned the scene carefully, observing the flow of people, the security measures in place, and potential hazards. The first challenge appeared suddenly. A group of rogue mercenaries attempted to breach a critical energy hub in the district. These attackers were more organized and intelligent than any Nathan had faced before. Their aim was not just destruction but control, seizing power over the city's energy supply. The citizens looked to Nathan and Leora with fear and uncertainty. Nathan immediately assessed the situation. He identified choke points, potential ambush areas, and escape routes for civilians. He directed humans and Zephyrian guards into strategic positions, using the environment to their advantage. His mind worked rapidly, anticipating enemy movements and adjusting strategies in real time. The first clash began with a surge of force from the mercenaries, but Nathan remained calm. He directed defenders to focus on disabling equipment rather than risking unnecessary injury. His leadership turned chaos into order. Humans and Zephyrians who had previously struggled to work together now moved seamlessly under his guidance. Princess Leora observed from a high platform, her eyes wide with amazement. "Nathan," she whispered to herself, "you are extraordinary. Not only do you fight and protect, but you inspire others to act beyond their limits." The mercenaries adapted, attempting to split the defenders and exploit weaknesses. Nathan remained vigilant, noticing patterns and predicting their next moves. He coordinated a counterattack, using minimal force but maximum efficiency. Slowly, the attackers were pushed back and the energy hub was secured. Citizens who had watched in fear now erupted in applause and cheers. Once the immediate threat was neutralized, Leora approached Nathan. "You have done more than defend the city. You have empowered its people, shown them courage, and united them through example. Few leaders in Zephyria could achieve this." Nathan shook his head slightly. "Leadership is not about personal glory. It is about responsibility, and ensuring others are safe and capable of acting wisely. That is the true measure of strength." As the day continued, Nathan faced multiple challenges that tested his judgment. A medical crisis arose when a transporter accident trapped several citizens in a malfunctioning lift. Nathan coordinated a safe evacuation, ensuring no one panicked and everyone moved efficiently. He guided Zephyrian responders, teaching them methods they had not considered, blending human ingenuity with local knowledge. Later, a dispute erupted over scarce resources, food and energy supplies needed by multiple neighborhoods. Nathan assessed the situation carefully. Instead of imposing authority, he listened to each group, weighed their needs, and proposed a solution that balanced fairness with practicality. The citizens agreed, surprised at the clarity and reason behind his plan. Leora watched silently, clearly impressed by his ability to resolve complex social challenges. As evening approached, the final and most personal test emerged. A small floating platform, normally used for training young citizens, had been sabotaged by a hidden device. It was unstable, and if the platform collapsed, several children would fall into the glowing river below. Nathan had seconds to act. He analyzed the situation quickly. The device was delicate but powerful. The platform could support weight in only certain areas, and panic could worsen the risk. With calm precision, he guided the children to the safest zones, instructing them step by step while simultaneously disarming the device. His hands moved steadily, his voice clear and reassuring. The device was neutralized, the children were safe, and the platform stabilized. Citizens who had gathered gasped and then cheered. Nathan looked around, calm but focused, knowing the importance of the lessons just demonstrated. Courage, composure, and problem-solving under pressure were as vital as strength or skill. Princess Leora approached, her eyes shining. Nathan, you have faced every challenge with intelligence, courage, and compassion. You have protected lives, united people, and inspired trust. You have shown me what humans are capable of when they act with purpose and heart. Nathan's expression remained calm. Humans are not perfect, Princess. We make mistakes, but we learn. We act best when we understand the stakes and care for others. That is what matters most. The princess studied him for a long moment. She had begun the trials with doubt, even mockery, but now she saw something remarkable. Nathan was not just a human soldier. He was a leader, a protector, and a model of integrity. His actions had demonstrated that humans could achieve extraordinary things without relying solely on technology or brute strength. As night fell over Zephyria, the floating city glimmered like a sea of stars. Citizens moved through the streets with newfound confidence, whispering about the human who had transformed their perceptions through courage and wisdom. Nathan stood with Princess Leora on a high terrace looking out over the city. The glowing rivers reflected the soft lights of the platforms, creating an ethereal scene that felt both serene and powerful. You have done more than survive, Leora said softly. You have changed our understanding. You have shown that humanity is capable of leadership, wisdom, and bravery that even we did not expect. Nathan smiled faintly. It is not about changing understanding, Princess. It is about showing that courage, compassion, and intelligence are valuable, regardless of species. Every people have the potential for greatness when they choose to act with heart and mind together. The princess's expression softened, a quiet respect shining through. I misjudged humans. I misjudged you. And I see now that strength is not just physical. It is moral, intellectual, and emotional as well. You have proven that in every action you have taken. Nathan nodded. I am glad you see that. But the true measure is not what one person can do alone, but what people can achieve together. Humans and Zephyrians working side by side can create something far greater than either could achieve alone. For a moment they stood in silence, gazing out over the floating city. The trials were over, but the lessons remained. Nathan had earned respect not through arrogance or force, but through steady action, careful judgment, and compassion. He had shown that humanity's greatest strength was not technology, armor, or weaponry. It was heart, mind, and courage in the face of uncertainty. Leora finally spoke again, her voice quiet but full of sincerity. Nathan, I mocked you when we first met. I expected weakness, but instead I found strength. You have proven more than I ever thought possible. You have shown the best of humanity. Nathan inclined his head, accepting her words without pride. Thank you, Princess. Respect is earned, and I am honored to have demonstrated what humans can offer. The citizens below began to gather, drawn to the lights and energy of the city, murmuring their admiration. Nathan realized that his actions had inspired not only Leora, but an entire civilization. He had shown them a new way to view humans, capable, courageous, and wise beyond expectations. As night deepened over Zephyria, Nathan and Leora returned to the palace. The city sparkled below like a constellation, each light reflecting the potential of its people. Nathan understood that his journey had not ended with physical challenges or tests of skill. It had ended with a demonstration of human integrity, leadership, and the ability to inspire others. Leora turned to him, her violet eyes thoughtful and warm. You have proven yourself in every way, Nathan, not only as a soldier but as a human being. You have earned respect, trust, and admiration. You have changed our perspective, and for that you have my deepest gratitude. Nathan smiled gently. It is not about gratitude, Princess. It is about showing what humans can do when they act with purpose, courage, and